Hi, it's Michelle Hofer again. Today, I wanted to talk to you about someone who was in my life for 24 years. And it was my father in law, Lee Hofer. And I'm doing this to honor him, his life, and his legacy. But I'm really doing it for our grandson Bjorn and for any other great grandkids to come. Um, Lee was an incredible man. His life was spent fully committed, and we call him the Mountain Man. I'm writing a book about his life. I've started it, and it's going to take some time to get to it, but I don't know. Let's see how easy it is to see. I know I got all these reflections, but that is a drawing of Lee, or actually, I guess it's a photograph that was done, and then an artist rendered it. So it just is beautiful. I'm actually going to have a very large one made up for us, and then also for my son Chase. I'm going to do one for him as well. But Lee was funny. He was quite the character. But the attributes I'd like to share while dedicating this video to his kids and grandkids and great-grandkids is that Lee was passionate. He was committed. He was involved in so many things. First, I'll say one of the things that I first admired about Lee when I got to know him is he was a prison guard and a correctional officer, but he worked at the prison. And I've known a lot of correctional officers in my lifetime, a lot of law enforcement. And the correctional officers that I have known, not saying all of them have this issue, but so many of them deal with depression, battle alcoholism, just find themselves in somewhat of a negative headspace, so to speak. And Lee, I'm not saying that he never experienced those feelings. I'm sure that he must have, though he didn't express them to us. He chose to enjoy life. He chose to enjoy his family, his friends, his community. He went out of his way to be committed, loving, giving. For instance, he was a wonderful grandfather. He loved his grandkids and his one great-grandson, Bjorn, who he didn't get to spend enough time with, unfortunately, because Lee tragically passed away in 2022, very suddenly, due to an accident. He was breaking a mule and was bucked off, and that accident actually ended Lee's life. And the only thing we can say about that particular thing is, though it's unfortunate he passed away, he died doing one of the things he loved the most. And Lee was part of many organizations, horse clubs, motorcycle clubs, Harley clubs. He rode the toy drive for Nevada City every year. He was involved in diving. He took care of the little community. There was a school near his house that had become like a community center, and Lee mowed the property, which I'm not talking about a little place that had a lawn. It was property. And when Lee passed away, not only did his family feel loss and mourn him, his community felt a deep, deep sense of loss. There's only one Lee. Some people called him Creek. He had several nicknames. At work, they called him Hillbilly. But he was a cowboy through and through. He lived by those kinds of rules, honestly, about doing right and, again, being passionate and those kind of things. But Lee loved to laugh. He enjoyed himself. And that's why I brought up like what he did for work. It was a choice he made. And Lee was the kind of guy that if you were his friend, you were his friend forever. He would go out of his way to help you. If you called, he'd show up. Um, you know, he was truly committed and amazing. For example, some of his grandkids didn't necessarily have an active dad in their lives, and Lee stepped into that place and fulfilled that. And in a really special and honorable way, I know he took his granddaughters to dances. He did those, like father-daughter dances, that kind of thing. His granddaughters were part of the Portuguese festival, and they were princesses and queens and things, and they had to always have an escort. And generally, it's the father that does that. Well, Lee did that, and gladly he did it. He didn't begrudge that. He was committed to those things. His two grandsons, he spent lots of time ice fishing and boating and kayaking and jet skiing and taking care of the cattle and, taking them around the property and letting them ranch with him. And the girls too, don't get me wrong, the girls got to ranch. But I'm just picking out like some special things that he did with his grandkids. And I so wish Bjorn and, he doesn't have any other great grandkids right now, but I'm sure there are those to come. He has grandchildren that aren't old enough to be married and have babies yet. But when they come, I so wish Lee were here to be around and do those kinds of things with them, because he definitely showed them hard work. He had an amazing work ethic. But he showed them that in this life there's fun. Like I said, he loved to dive. He taught his kids, he had siblings and brother-in-laws and friends that loved to dive. We spent a lot of time in Fort Bragg, California, camping and diving and just enjoying time as family and friends. And he was always game to do that, which was amazing. And like I said, committed. He was just always committed. And I watched him do some fun stuff. He took Chase and they got to ride in the Christmas parade in Lincoln when Chase was like 3 on Tinkerbell, the pony, and Lee rode and Josh rode. And there's other times I rode. And we did things because Lee had us do it. But going back to some of the things he was involved in, he did Wagon Train, he rode Pony Express, and things like Wagon Train, and when he went on big rides with the motorcycle clubs, generally Lee picked the back spot to ride, which is like a guard, and it was the most dangerous position in a ride or a wagon train, and Lee chose that spot to protect those in front of him. And so many people, so many members of those clubs, one of the things they talked about, either at his celebration of life or, by messaging, said, that impacted them so greatly that Lee took that so seriously. And, you wouldn't know it. He didn't act like he was in the most dangerous spot. He was having a great old time back there. But truly it was. And it was that sense of protection and, again, commitment. I can't say that enough. And he was so committed that when he built his house out on the ranch, he built his house with his best friend, who's like his brother, truly like his brother, Uncle Dave. He built that house with Dave in mind, not only for visits, but for the future, in case Dave ever needed to come live with Lee. That house was set up for Uncle Dave to be part of that if needed or wanted. And who does that? Who does that? Lee Hofer does that. Lee Hofer did that. And you know, Lee wasn't a perfect guy. I'm not trying to say that he was, but I'll tell you, if you had the opportunity to meet Lee and see Lee in action, consider yourself blessed. And though it was tragic, and it really, we still are suffering from the loss of Lee. There's a couple things to say. He was breaking his mule when he was bucked off and tragically passed away. But he was doing what he loved. He truly loved. He was a true cowboy. He was a true mountain man. And because we're a family that's born again and know that heaven is our home, the comfort comes at least from knowing that we will see Lee again. You know, I know that brings comfort to his entire family. And sorry, I'm going to get emotional. I know that when Lee stood before God in his presence for the first time, God said, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You loved well. You gave of yourself, and you did the things that I would have had you to do. You loved your family. You stayed committed. And you loved people. And I hope that anyone that knew Lee can take from that just a small portion of that and say, you know, I'm going to strive to do those kinds of things. I'm going to strive to love. I'm going to strive to laugh. I'm going to strive to be committed. And I'm going to put my family first and my community and people and the love for them as a priority in my life. Well done, Lee. Thank you for leaving the legacy you have left. I love your legacy, and I honor you today. Okay. See you in the future. That's all I can say. Thank you.